Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the September Risk Management Training on Church Security. My name is John Ebwin. If you have not met me yet, um, today, well, let me first go over some admin. At the top of your screen or somewhere on your screen, depending if you're on your phone or computer, you should see a Q&A button at the top there. If at any point you've got a question, put your question in that there, and then at the end, when we do the Q&A part, I will go to there to address any of your questions or concerns. This presentation, it's really geared more towards churches, not so much to schools, except when I get to when I start talking about the construction and maintenance activities. Some of that stuff will apply more to can apply both to churches and schools. Um, but I did have a lengthy discussion yesterday with Deacon Scott, and he explained to me, as far as schools are concerned, all the different laws that they have to follow in regards to school security. But yeah, this is going to be geared more mainly towards the churches. And so for basically the purpose of this presentation, like I said, is to just give churches an overview of a security plan that pastors and his staff can implement. And the main takeaway is that the area of security is multifaceted, and this is something that you should not try to go at it alone. You can get an assessment. Once you get an assessment done, um, you're going to be looking at a list of things that you got to do, and it's going to be very daunting to try to implement those things by yourself, or just with one or two people. So I frame the rest of this presentation within the context of like a security team or a security ministry that your pastor can form, and I'll go over what all that means in a moment. But if you don't have those kind of resources, if you have a small parish, we here in risk management, we're happy to partner with you and to help you develop a plan together. So let's first talk about why we need to be concerned about security. Um, the USCCB, they compiled a list of 273 incidents against Catholic churches across 43 states since May of 2020. And these are not FBI statistics. These are just cases that were reported on the news that we know of. And so the number may actually be higher based on more accurate data. But if you go back to May 2020, you remember that the country was in turmoil. It was the start of COVID-19. And, it was just, we had just got done with, actually, we were leading up to a contentious election. And, there were a lot of groups that didn't like the Catholic Church, and they still don't. And they sought to intimidate us and basically use violence against the church to get their message across. Whether that was, due to just they don't like the church or they have different ideologies, didn't matter. And the strategy didn't really work. Violence never works, but that doesn't stop these people from doing it. And so, we're about to start another election season soon, and so we need to be vigilant and prepare. And this presentation is not just for preparing for elections, but whatever the devil may try to throw at us, we need to be vigilant and prepare for that. So security, it's at the forefront of my mind, and because of our recent history. But later on, we'll consider other reasons why we need to be prepared. So when I talk about this ministry, security ministry, I'm really talking about this core team of basically consisting of the pastor, the business manager, head usher. Those would be at minimum. You would want those three involved, and then any subject matter experts or SMEs. Really looking for primarily active or former military, law enforcement officer, paramedics, healthcare workers who have like ER ER experience, and also to some extent cybersecurity as well. You know, in preparing things for like active shooter, those sorts of things, or you know, a medical emergency. You know, those are the people that you would want to be, you know, either present to deal with those situations, or you know, advising, you know, like the usher team or other volunteers to help in those situations. Secondary source would be other healthcare providers. You know, those that, you know, they should be licensed in, like, you know, basic what do you call it? First aid, that sort of thing, and then also mental health counselors to deal with any aftermath. You know, you would want those people to help advise you on your team. Keep this group small, no more than 10 members total. You know, you don't want to be just have it open to anyone. You know, they may not be the right fit for the team. You know, but that also means you have to be very selective about who you allow. Um, you know, you want to make sure that they're not going to try to take over things. You want to make sure that they're going to be a you know, a valuable contributing member of the team. And like I said, if your church does not have those resources, then you can always rely on us. Just give us a call, and you know, we will help you develop your plan. And at the bottom there, next, and the rest of the slides, I'm going to be talking about these different areas that you would want to be factoring in when you develop your security plan. Um, we should always start with, excuse me, your security assessment. You know, get your baseline, see where you are, and so you know what you need to do to get everything up to par. Um, the most obvious activity that would happen at a church would be mass, right? But there's, depending on the size of your church and the size of your you know, your congregation and demographics, there can be a whole other host of activities, and it's not showing up. Um, but yeah, there's I'm trying to remember here. There's, you might have scouts, you might have youth activities, um, Knights of Columbus. You know, there's all these different like church related activities, and also social related activities that you know, the point is you need to make a list. At least for me, helping making a list helps me to see the bigger picture, and to be able to organize my thoughts. And you know, the main point really is to that we should start making security an integral part of whatever goes on at the parish. You know, no matter how big or small the activity is. And you know, you want to prioritize based on, number one, how large is the attendance, you know, such as mass. You know, number two would probably be the frequency of those activities. You know, is it a daily thing? You know, what goes on daily? You know, you've got regular business operations, you got staff there, so you know they need to be protected. Also, you have daily mass as well. And then number three of my priority would probably be anytime that youth is involved. You know, we want to be extra, uh, uh, take extra precautions in protecting our youth. Um, your parish might be different, but you know, it all depends on what your list will look like. The next thing I would do is, you know, make a list of all your assets. And on the, if you have the hurricane preparedness guide, we do have a form where you can list all of your assets. But these are just some examples here. You know, you're going to have a church. There's usually an office and a parish hall, and then possibly a maintenance shed. So all of these things contain assets that you know, criminals like to target, so that, you know, they can steal it and sell it for money, for drugs or whatever. And we want to do what we can to deter that. So but it helps to know, to make a list of what you have, so you know what kind of measures you're going to need, thinking in advance to be able to protect those assets. So security assessment, what I mean by that, it's basically, you know, to identify strengths and vulnerabilities in your workplace, your response, and your recovery. Um, in 2018-19, life safety went out to all the churches and schools and dioceses and performed an assessment. Um, so you all should have a copy of that. That would be a good place to start. Um, if you have not already addressed some of those concerns that they pointed out in their reports. And then also your subject matter experts. This is where it's helpful to have a team of people to kind of give you their perspective and their areas of expertise, um, to try to advise you on where some of these vulnerabilities might be. um, and you know again, risk management will be glad to help you out. And then on the next slide we'll look at another assessment that you can do with something that the Department of Homeland Security put out. Um, this one there's about 48 questions or so, and it deals with, it's a lot of procedural questions, like, do you have this policy in place? Do you have, like, vetting volunteers, that sort of thing. But there's also some things like physical measures, like it'll talk about the perimeter. Might be hard to see on your screen there. But things with your perimeter, how do you respond to like medical emergencies? What is, questions about your security team? So that it's just another tool. You don't have to do it, but if you want to, you can do this. Go to this website here and fill out this assessment. If you need help, I'll be more than happy to assist you to fill that out. And basically what it is, you kind of self-score yourself based on your answers here. So, red is kind of like you're very vulnerable, you don't have a lot of measures in place, and then green is more like, you're very prepared. So, you score yourself based on these things, and then it'll generate a report and make recommendations as to how you can help improve your security posture. The next step that the security team should be looking at is planning, and this is really more going to be uh, a concern with maybe the business manager, whoever deals and coordinates with activities that go on at the parish at any given time. But there should be like a calendar of events. This is to help with communication, make sure everyone's on the same page. Pastor, everyone that needs to know what's going on and who's going to be on church property at any given time. And also, uh, if you schedule any training or emergency drills, you need to get that on the calendar so that people know where they need to be for whatever training you guys need. And also, as far as coordination, what I have there, anytime you got a social event, especially if it's gonna be a large event, if you're gonna need traffic officers to help with the flow of traffic, coming in and out of the church property, you would want to coordinate based on whatever the event is and make sure that you have enough manpower and resources to ensure that you've got a safe environment for everyone that's attending. And like I said, training, we tend to think about active shooter, right? That just with recent events in the news, that's the thing that seems to come to mind. But as you can see, there's a lot of other aspects of or other training scenarios rather that we need to be worried about. Um, I have not personally gone through any kind of like active shooter training yet, but I would imagine there might be some elements of maybe crowd management in there, and possibly maybe first aid, depending on how the scenario is set up. Um, but as you can see here, it's more than just active shooter. And when I talk about policies and procedures on the next slide, you know, you need to consider what kind of training you need to do, and then develop policies on how to deal with, like, missing person. That's I've got small kids, and whenever I go to a large church event, I'm always worried about that. Um, the parent should always be responsible for the child, but sometimes the environment makes it very challenging, and um, I think the church should have some kind of plan, or um, some kind of procedure to help in that regard, to prevent this sort of thing. De-escalation is another one. Suspicious person, bomb threat. These are things that can happen during a mass, and the usher team would need to know how to deal with such situations. And policies and procedures. So a lot of these things might be that churches might already have, but again, like I said, everything um, that the church does, we really should start integrating a safety mindset into everything. So, um, but like I said, some of the stuff might be covered in, like, the parish office manual. Cybersecurity is something we're developing now. Um, so but like, this is all under the umbrella of your safety program. And when you do trainings, it's very important to do trainings, because training is going to um, it's going to uncover, like, any deficiencies in your procedures. And so, use trainings as a way to help bolster your policies and procedures, and make them better. Communication, especially when you're dealing with a very active event. You want to be on the same page. You want everyone to know on your team to know what's going on. Um, First and foremost, make sure that you have the contact numbers of everyone, and that they're up to date, and make them available. If there's make sure it gets saved in the phone. Anytime that there's a landline anywhere on your property, make sure that there's a phone list next to that telephone. I'm a big fan of two-way radios. One big advantage that I see with two-way radios is the instantaneous real-time group communication, right? If you've got, let's say you've got an usher team, and there's like 8 ushers, and they're spread out across the church, and then something's going on, and they need to communicate. Sometimes it's not very efficient, especially if people are screaming and all that stuff, and they're trying to, like, scream across the church. You need to have some way of a more efficient communication, and two-way radio is the way to do that. There's no license required with some of the radios that are available on the market. Um, and another advantage is it can free up your regular phone to call 911 while maintaining communication with your team. Another thing that doesn't get really talked about is a duress code. This is something like, let's say someone comes to the office, and they're they don't have good intent, but they're pretending like they need help or whatever, but they're really there to do something not so good. And let's say you didn't have a panic button at your desk at your office. It's just not installed. You can One way to use a dress code is, like the business manager or secretary or whatever. They can say, excuse me, I need to relay a message to someone. So they just pick up the phone and say, you know hey, did you want me to email the Pope about the meeting? Right? Like, that sounds like a legitimate thing, but that's not something that you would normally say. So that would alert the person that they're calling that, hey, there's danger at the front desk, and we need to send someone right away, or call the police. So that's what a duress code is. Now, construction and maintenance. So this is the really the pastor and business manager, they're going to be overseeing construction and maintenance. But before all of that stuff gets put into place, obviously you would rely on your subject matter experts to, give you some input as to what would be a good um, good plan as far as like construction goes or whatever, if you had to do that. Not every security measure is going to be, physical construction of something, or installing, cameras or whatever. Some of it's going to be procedural, like I said. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, once they have the input from SMEs, then the pastor and business manager will oversee the rest of it. Um, and really they're the ones to um, handle like the financial side of things, get quotes, secure funds, and anything over $10,000 requires fiscal approval. Um, so now I'm going to be talking about the rest of it's going to be talking about construction and maintenance and some of the things that you guys need to be wary of as far as maintenance goes to make sure that your facilities are in good working order. Um, so first, some physical security basic steps. Um, you know, access control, visibility, and communication. Those three would be my top three things that I would try to get down first if you don't have anything else in place. And I'll go over some of these in the next few slides. Lighting, um, you know, eh, that's going to be the first thing I would worry about. Make sure that your lighting is adequate, that it's in the right space, right places, especially parking lot. This is actually in a parking lot facing a rectory. And, you know, and this one, this is an example of, not so good, better, and probably the best example of lighting. Um, this one's pretty good because I think you got pretty adequate lighting, but you also got some vegetation, which probably needs to be taken down. This is an older photo. So, there may have been some changes in that regard. But you want to make sure you have adequate lighting, especially from the street. If you have police officers, if you ask police officers to give like a drive-by and just, at night to check out the property. You want to make sure um, that they can see what's going on from the street, and also to give them a sense of security themselves to, personal security. Um, you want to make sure that your parking lots are well lit. And like I said, vegetation. You want to try to keep it down, especially with vegetation near windows and doors. You don't want to give criminals a place to hide. 36 inches is probably the max. I've seen 24 inches, but that keeping it that low might limit the type of foliage, decorative foliage that you want to have. But 36 should be adequate. Fire preparedness. Really, the you should have a fire marshal. That would be my recommendation to help you decide, where fire extinguishers should go. And then also like it's not as simple as just going down to Home Depot, getting a fire extinguisher and calling it done. There's different risks. There's grease fires that require a different material to put it out. There's electrical fires, there's chemical fires. So all of those different risks that you would have at your parish are going to require different fire extinguishers, and the fire marshal would be the best person to get advice from. Um, yeah, you want to make sure your fire suppression system is being checked every year as well, and making sure that it's documented in the service tags, and just have it like on an automatic schedule so that you don't have to worry about it. And emergency exit sign, that's a big thing that I've been seeing. Some of them I'm seeing that they're not lit. But if If there's an emergency, lights go out, you want people to be able to locate those exits. And like I said, put everything on a automatic inspection. AEDs, basically make sure that your AEDs are being serviced and ready to go. In this example here, you see it might be kind of hard to see, but there is an X in there, so this one is not ready to go, and it's just alerting that it needs some servicing. Could be a battery. That's usually what it is, but when you see that, then it's time to call your servicer and have them come out and take a look at that for you, and make sure you're documenting when you're having that service done. I know I'm kind of flying through these. I only have 30 minutes. I got 5 minutes left. So, surveillance system. The main thing I want to point out here is your footage. What I've heard is that the recommended is retention should be at least 30 days. Some people do it 7 days. Some people do it 14 days. I've heard. One church I know they keep it indefinitely, which if you're able to do that, but at the minimum at least do 30 days. Um, and always seek ways to improve coverage and the quality of the picture. There's new technology always coming out. If it's been a while since you had your system updated, it might be a good idea to just have an assessment done to see if there's any ways to improve the picture. Doors. Yeah, you want to make sure that the doors close properly, unassisted. So, you walk out the door, you let go of it, it's going to shut by itself. And it's not good if you have to like push it closed or pull it closed or whatever. That's what I mean by unassisted. If it's not closing by itself, then you need to check the closers, have them adjusted. Um, so that it closes by itself, but make sure that it doesn't close hard enough that it might injure like a small child. Um, and sometimes, you might have some sticking on the door frame. I've seen that on an inspection. So you might have to make an adjustment somewhere, either in the hinges or possibly in the door frame. But you want those to be freely moving, in an emergency so that people can get out quickly. Um, And then uh, gates, you want to walk around your property. If you have fencing and gates, make sure that they're all intact. None of them are damaged. If they are, then go ahead and take care of that. Be mindful of any gate hardware. Same thing kind of like with the emergency doors, making sure that they move freely. Look for signs of rust, corrosion, excessive wear, abnormal sounds like squeaking, or use of excessive force to open and close doors. That might indicate service life, the end of service lives, or maybe lack of maintenance. And squeaking sounds where that can mean it might need some lubrication or an adjustment or worn parts. So, especially if it's worn parts, you want to go and have those replaced. If you have a sliding gate at like this one church, there's going to be a little bit more maintenance. You want to make sure that this track is clean so that it opens freely, and also opening up the control box because sometimes insects and debris can get in there and affect the operation of your security gate. And lastly, like I said, radios, your communication, keep your phone list up to date. If you have a panic button, if it's not hardwired, like if you have one of those wireless panic buttons, make sure you change the battery every 3 years. What I like to do with my batteries at home is I like to write the month and the year that I change the battery, and then when it's time to change, I'll just look at that and go ahead and change it. Um, I say every 3 years because the ones the panic buttons that I've seen, the wireless ones, they use those little coin batteries, and those last a good long time, at least 3 years. And then two-way radios, it's good to test those once in a while. The frequencies and the channels that radios use, they are public. They're not private. Sometimes different brands of radios have circuitry that may not allow you other people to listen in, but that's really not a guarantee. But that's why it's good to test the radio frequencies and channels, making sure that other people are not using it. And if they are, then it's a good idea to put on a different channel so that there's not none of that interference. Um, and also just keep the batteries charged when not in use. So, basically overnight, like if you're using for like your office staff. I know I kind of flew through those. Security is kind of like um, it's not enough time. 30 minutes not enough time to cover everything, but I really just wanted to generate some interest, and some motivation for the churches to start thinking about these different areas of their security plan, and start making steps towards having a more robust security plan. So I can go if you guys want, if you have any questions. um I don't see any right now. So with that, if you do have any questions later on, you know how to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to assist you. If you want to do an assessment as well, we can start scheduling that right now. Probably not start until the next probably 1 or 2 weeks. But if you want to do that, right now is a good time to get on my schedule, and we'll take care of you. All right, so that's it for this month, and I'll see you next month. Thank you for joining.